As the nuclear bomb was about to detonate, Victor, unsure of where to seek refuge for survival, relied on his instincts as a businessman and rushed into a large building surrounded by zombies. In the end, not only did he survive, but he also acquired a substantial amount of resources. Establishing his own era, he didn't talk to people about feelings anymore. Only the ultimate prophet is the most trustworthy. On this day, Victor, sipping red wine and enjoying music, leisurely sat on a chair. He wants the painter in the building to complete a portrait of him and hang it in the building for the world to remember. Victor instructed the artist, "You must paint the real me, the one who created everything." At this moment, his subordinate Howard approached, informing Victor that a newcomer was at the telephone booth, requesting to join the building. Victor answered the call, and the man on the other end introduced himself as Arnold, expressing his belief that the building needed someone like him, a former carpenter. However, Victor said there was already a carpenter in the building, and then he hung up. The next day, Howard again reported a new applicant. Victor directly asked, "How have you survived outside?" The woman inside claimed to be a doctor who had helped many people along the way. Believing this statement would secure her entry, she was surprised when Victor promptly hung up. In the following days, numerous people applied to join, but Victor's attitude remained unchanged. Howard was somewhat puzzled as to why Victor rejected everyone this week, refusing even to meet with them. Victor just said, "We can't take these people. Not just any dog or cat can come in." Howard, still perplexed, asked, "But some of these people have skills that we need. Why reject them?" Victor made it clear, "Do you think I select people based on a checklist? I can judge them by their voices. We've reached this point because of my instincts. We don't need them." And the artist just drew and dared not participate in their discussions. Victor's rule was absolute and dictatorial. After a while, Howard came back. Victor is getting a bit grumpy, but Howard says that this is someone you should want to meet in person. And it's Morgan, and he's bringing little Morgan with him. Despite Victor's dislike for Morgan, he asked, "What brings you here?" Morgan, seemingly reluctant, explained, "I know we had conflicts before, but now I need your help. Little Morgan is sick, and we need Naomi's assistance." Victor retorted, "Why should I allow her to treat you?" Morgan immediately stated, "We don't want to move in, and the child have nothing to do with the feud between us. So, I'm begging you."
Victor.
Tell him to take a hike.
Victor, who was expected to sympathize with the child, reacted differently, leaving Morgan somewhat helpless. Downstairs, Victor, observing the artist packing up, realized the painting was completed. The artist then presented the artwork to him. The portrait depicted Victor as formidable and domineering, exuding an aura of superiority. The artist was quite pleased with her masterpiece. However, Victor stared blankly at the painting. Was this portrayal truly him? He had spent some time being a good person by Alicia's side, and the person in the painting showed no trace of compassion or kindness. Instead, it portrayed cold-bloodedness and even a disdain for life. Victor kicked in the door. He was angry. The artist, now frightened, couldn't fathom what mistake she had made. Onlookers, including those working, watched Victor with confusion. Victor forcefully discarded the painting from the building, feeling that he shouldn't be portrayed in such a manner. At the very least, he believed he should retain a shred of humanity. Victor told the artist, "You cannot see the real me." Subsequently, Victor instructed Howard to quickly contact Morgan. If unable to reach him, send people to find him. Victor decided to help the child. The others couldn't understand what was wrong with Victor. He had survived until now relying on his selfish and profit-driven businessman instincts. However, deep down, he desired to preserve a hint of the kindness he once possessed. The artist had only depicted Victor's cold-blooded selfishness, leading to his outburst of anger. Soon, Morgan arrived with the child. Cute little Morgan underwent Naomi's examination. Morgan entered the room, encountering Naomi for the first time since the Great Destruction. They tightly embraced each other. Originally, Naomi and Dory were in the cellar, but an emergency radio call led Morgan to rescue them. Unexpectedly, Victor's men arrived first. They needed Naomi's medical skills and Dory's management skills. Naomi didn't want to stay, but the resources here allowed her to help others. After the examination, it was determined that little Morgan needed 2 days of treatment for a double ear infection. Victor then offered to have a drink with Morgan, who praised Victor for running the place so well. Victor, not modest, claimed it was more than just good, it was an oasis in the desert. A miracle. Victor went straight to the point. revealing that he needed Morgan to do something he couldn't. Morgan was about to respond, but Victor pulled out a handgun, making it clear that this was not a negotiation. Morgan had to comply with Victor's demands if he wanted to see the child again. Faced with the threat, Morgan, for the sake of the child, reluctantly agreed. Before Victor could disclose what he needed Morgan to do, the sound of an explosion echoed through, and a zombie unexpectedly flew onto the window. Their hearts were in shock. This is the 4th floor. Following this, Victor took out binoculars and saw a group of people using catapults to launch zombies. It was simply unbelievable. As they observed the zombies, it seemed like something had been tampered with in their bellies. Victor kicked the zombies out of the window, but the zombies exploded, shaking the building. Soon, Howard reported that the newcomers were the Stalkers, the group known for stripping zombies of their clothes. They expressed a desire to talk to Victor. The leader of the Stalkers picked up the phone, and as Victor listened, he recognized the voice. It was Arnold, the carpenter who had applied to join earlier. Looks like it was all a conspiracy before. Victor was grateful for his intuition in rejecting them. Arnold claimed, "My equipment can destroy your building." Victor, aware he wasn't joking, asked, "What do you want?" Arnold replied, "I just want to find a home for my people." Victor, without hesitation, rejected the proposal. Arnold then instructed his followers to lift the tarp, revealing a dud. Those who came into contact with it died, and they had placed fragments inside the zombies' bellies. If he doesn't agree, the next batch of zombies will be radioactive. Arnold gave Victor 1 hour to decide. Victor told Howard to get Dory over here to discuss how to kill the people down there. However, Morgan intervened, stating he could prevent the situation from escalating if given a walkie-talkie. He told Victor that Grace was nearby and that there was an armored car outside. Contacting Grace to bring the armored vehicle would drive the intruders away, but Victor doesn't trust Morgan and even suspects him of collaborating with the Stalkers. On the other hand, Victor is not willing to let Morgan give orders in his own territory. Just as Victor was about to descend the stairs, he suddenly felt a difficulty in breathing, as if something had lodged in his throat.
June?
When Victor woke up again, he found himself lying in bed. He immediately inquired about the elapsed time since the Stalkers had given them only an hour to consider. Fortunately, he had only been unconscious for 10 minutes. Victor's body remained extremely weak, and the cause of his condition was unknown, making it impossible to treat effectively. He suspected foul play, believing someone within the building had poisoned him. Howard began to inquire about the Stalkers' situation. Dory on the roof of the building is now aiming at them. These zombies have bombs on them. If he shoot, they could blow the place up. Howard checked his pocket watch, revealing there were still 40 minutes until the Stalkers' deadline. Victor had no choice but to command Dory to refrain from shooting for the time being.
Stand by and stay locked.
At that moment, Morgan approached and pleaded with Victor to let him contact Grace so that this crisis could be easily resolved. He believed that setting aside their past disputes, Victor needed his help, especially when it concerned the life of little Morgan. Morgan pleaded for assistance. Howard explained that wireless communication was prohibited within the building, and the walkie-talkie was stored in the armory.
The armory?
I'm sorry, Morgan, you don't get to ask questions.
Morgan continued, denying any collusion, and suggested transmitting the message to the armory to contact Grace. After careful consideration, Victor accepted Morgan's suggestion. However, when Howard attempted to call the armory, he discovered they couldn't establish contact, likely a result of the recent attack damaging the phone lines. Meanwhile, zombies flew in through the window again, this time likely hitting the 3rd floor. Victor wondered why the Stalkers had breached their agreement not to attack within the first hour. Suddenly, explosions resounded, shaking the building once more. The immense explosion had directly destroyed the elevator, and power supplies were beginning to fail.
What's that? They're early.
Victor grabbed the phone, irritated, and asked Arnold, "Didn't you promise not to attack for an hour?" Arnold could only respond, "I saw your sniper aiming at us. This is just a warning to ensure you won't play tricks. The next launch will involve zombies carrying nuclear radiation. I suggest you leave the rooftop immediately." At this point Victor started vomiting, and Naomi, observing his emesis, noted it was blue. It seemed Victor's suspicion of being poisoned was correct. Someone had spiked his food with a radiation-resistant substance. Concerned about the potential fatality, Victor questioned if he would die. Naomi was unable to provide definitive information because she did not know the dosage and timing of Victor's consumption. During the wait, Dory and Wendell arrived, attempting to persuade Victor to heed Morgan's advice, but Howard says that only Victor can truly represent the building. At this moment, Victor stepped out and agreed to seek Grace's help from the armory, but he insisted on going personally. Even though walking was now challenging for him, he believed there was a spy planted beside him, making it impossible for him to trust anyone. Despite Howard's assertion that he had been with him from the beginning, Victor only trusted himself. Everyone around him became a suspect. Victor pointed the knife at Morgan, instructing him to go to the armory instead. Considering the possibility of numerous zombies below due to the destroyed elevator, Victor believes that Morgan will do what he's told as long as he has the kid. Faced with authority, Morgan reluctantly agreed to Victor's demand. Victor's suspicion turned out to be correct. The elevator was now destroyed, and scattered zombies roamed the floors. With only 30 minutes remaining, there was no time to clear the stairs of debris. The quickest solution was to descend to the armory on the first floor from their current location. Morgan told Victor to take care of the child. Then he started to grab the rope and slowly slid down. The zombies between floors were trapped, posing no threat to Morgan. After a few minutes, he safely reached the first floor. Morgan checked the outside path for any issues and repeatedly called for Victor. After 3 attempts, Victor responded. Morgan insisted that Victor put the child down and hand her over. Expressing concern about the possibility of Victor turning into a zombie due to the poison, he promised to fulfill their deal. Victor looked at the cute little Morgan in his arms. He was also moved with compassion. He was also afraid that he would really become zombies. He envied Morgan for caring so much about this child. His childhood lacked paternal attention, contributing to the later development of the businessman Victor. Using a rope, Victor secured little Morgan and slowly lowered her down. Morgan, who was a father, watched nervously as Victor endured physical discomfort but successfully handed little Morgan over to Morgan. Victor asked if Morgan would come back for him. Morgan didn't answer directly, only stating that it would all be over soon. Calling out Alicia's name, Victor thought he might be facing his end. In the world, only Alicia could make him aspire to be a better person. After hearing this, Morgan returned and asked Victor, "Do you know where Alicia is?" Victor shook his head, saying, "I have a feeling you can find Alicia, but she won't want to see me as I am now." Morgan assured him that he would find Alicia. Victor's head got heavier and heavier and he passed out. When he opened his eyes, Naomi was injecting him with drugs, and Morgan was back again. Morgan manages to contact Grace to disarm the crisis, and manages to drive off the stalker. Naomi said that Victor's poisoning was not serious and that he had vomited most of it out. Through this incident, Victor felt he shouldn't be so cold and insensitive. Perhaps he needed to try trusting others. During Victor's coma, he would have been perfectly capable of taking advantage of the opportunity if Morgan had other intentions. Morgan persuaded Victor, stating that there are many people outside, and Victor should try to trust and accept them, creating a place that Alicia would be willing to come to. Victor changed his mindset, believing that everyone working together could find Alicia. Morgan reached out to help Victor up, and Victor didn't refuse. Morgan is a trustworthy man. However, Victor noticed a blue powder on one of Morgan's fingers, freezing his smile. Recalling the time when he and Morgan drank together, he realized that Morgan had poisoned him. Immediately, he angrily exclaimed, "You're here to kill me." Victor even suspected that the child is sick is also Morgan fabricated. In a confrontation, Victor was no match for Morgan. Morgan explained that if he knew the stalkers were coming, he wouldn't have exposed everyone to danger. Morgan wanted to kill Victor, but Howard came with a gun and saved him. Morgan's hands were tied. Victor was going to throw the man who tried to kill him down. At that moment, the phone rang and the caller was Grace. She explained that even though Arnold and his group had left, the zombies carrying explosive fragments were left behind and had now mingled with the group of zombies downstairs. You know what happens if they blow up. Even without detonation, there would be continuous radiation leakage. Grace offered to help clean up, but in return, Victor had to release Morgan and her daughter. Howard took one look at the car where the zombies used to be, and Grace didn't look like she was lying. Victor agreed, but only on the condition that the baby and Grace stay. Morgan could live, but he could never set foot in the building again.
Yes.
Victor then had Morgan removed. Finally, Victor told Howard to have his portrait taken back and he wasn't even going to have it restored. Through this experience, he understood that people should see him for who he truly is, and emotions are unreliable.